Okay, there we go. I may have jumped into that real fast and cut off like the last note in my intro. How you doing, guys? Zeralath Immortal, rocking and rolling on the Bock Saga a little bit more. So, now I'm gonna take us in a slightly different direction. So, like, I'm realizing that as I'm reviewing who in the hell is Eeyore Bock, it's like I don't want to drag down the Bock Saga, too much talking about that. Like, it's trying to tell you something. It's very weird, the kind of manner in which you're trying to explain things about the Bock Saga from a historical point of view, from a validation point of view, right? I heard some bits and pieces throughout this, which is kind of broken up into these little 15-minute segments. This is very old uploads. This is like 2011. These were uploaded. And they were recorded in fucking 87. And this is with Merle, who's still alive. This is young Merle in 87, telling some stuff from the Bock Saga. If you remember Rings of Power Part 3, this is basically going to be getting a little bit different contextually, telling some of these stories of the Hyperborean family of the Ra living up in the they're like north of I think they moved up north after like the thaw or something for them to then end up coming down to Finland, because Finland is where they used to be, right? And coming down through the world or whatever, right? So this is going to talk about a few of those historical characters, a few things you've heard before, a few different aspects and contexts of explaining it. It's great to hear it from not just a different person than Jim Chesner, in absence of a really good YouTube stream worthy. I mean, you're going to have to listen to those Bock tapes on your own. You'll understand. It's your atypical old school tape. It's just too scratchy. Like, in order to make it any more level, it would seem you would probably have to degrade some of that microphone's audio quality. It wouldn't shock me if AI could do it. But anyway, yeah, so with this history, there's one point where it does get into talking about the 900s up through and just after 1050, and explaining a few aspects of the situation with the transition of power in Finland from pagandom to Christendom, and what the Bocks had to do, to go into exile. I can't remember if it specifically talks about what the Bocks did with themselves, but as far as telling the world history is concerned, it explains a few things in context. All right, so this is Michele Merle, one of Bock Eeyore's other top students, as I believe I understand it, right? Hang on, there we go.
In the heathen time, we were also writing, but we were writing in the form of what we call rune. We had rune script, rune writing.
And so you can already hear like this, right? This is better than anything that's worth sitting in and listening to, an actual Bock Saga being told from Eeyore. And there's one tape out there that's like 4 hours something long, one of the longer. It's like 8 lectures. It might be 8 hours, actually. I can't remember. It's a huge number. But it's like 8 lectures over a course of like a year in a couple different parts of the world. I think it's all English lectures, even though he's in different parts of the world. But anyway, let me jump back to well, I don't have to jump back to the beginning, because he doesn't start talking till here. Anyway, here we go.
But we were writing in the form of what we call rune. We had rune script, rune writing. And one rune is one mark, where, for example, you create one rune like this. This is now one rune. And this can mean my nose, my grandmother, my grandfather, nice day tomorrow, we'll meet you Saturday afternoon, 7 o'clock under the big oak tree. This is one mark that tells one story. Like, for example, the Chinese languages. Chinese language is one rune script, or the hieroglyph in Egypt. So, in order to be able to understand this mark, you had to have 10,000 of associations in your brain in order to be able to read all that marks that were carved out on wood usually and transferred to all corners of the planet. So you had one special job called one rune card. Who was reading how this kind of rune, who had knowledge about rune. Now, when you start in this Torah book, what Moses writes, the first 5 chapters, called the Torah book, where she make one mark for 22 sounds, what is used in this Hebrew language. You don't anymore need to have 10,000 of association in your brain in order to relate to one particular system.
Vicky, thank you. I can't believe I forgot to hit the button again. Yes, I was just saying with the runes, it was a very important point, so thank you for pointing out that that was muted. That would have sucked if I didn't get this out, because I was talking about runes, because with my rune magic, you saw me muted pointing out my tattoo, right? So naturally you knew I was saying something important about runes. The angles of runes, right? There's only 3 angles in all of runes. It's all straight, 90 degrees, 45 degrees, right? So I mean, like, yeah. Yeah, 45 degrees. So sometimes it's 45 degrees in different directions, right? And then there's to be said what's said about kenaz, which I didn't say when I was muted. I didn't mention just the interesting juxtaposition of what the kenaz, the kenning rune looks like. Yeah, and those primordial forms have multidimensional meanings because in their simplicity, you can extract the representation of many things that all will have some sort of energetically thematic relationship to each other. It's very hard to describe, right? You have to sit there and you would have to sit there and meditate on a rune with like the list of like the basic things that the runes are, and then over time, once you've integrated what a basic rune is in its basic like I wouldn't even want to call it academic understanding of the runes, right? Just that intuitive knowing of the primordial meaning of the runes. That from there, you then can end up building personal meaning, which would put it into context of not modern, unless you are using runes in a modernism. Depending on whether you consider yourself living modernly, right? I live now. I don't consider myself living modern. I'm certainly not moderated, and I'm certainly not dead in a canoptic urn, right? I'm certainly earning money. The E-moon. I'm building my E-moon. Anyway, let's keep going.
You need only 22 mark in your brain, 22 mark, and with this 22 mark you read and you read and you read and you read and you read, but there is no way that you can separate that what is natural and logical from that what is unnatural, normal or unlogical. There is no way. So we become book reading people with this introduction of...
Now, what he is effectively explaining, by the way, is the trivium process. He just basically explained the trivium process, reducing things to self-evident truth.
Making one mark for every sound, where before only certain people who had the understanding of 10,000s of runes, which makes that you use a much larger part of your brain and could establish and keep all this relationship to nature as we had it before. In this book become for the first time introduced God, and God is coming from the root sound good, and good is something what we have inside us. This book become called Ra because she is...
So let me get back to that real second. I want to make sure that he said that because I think he said good, like good, but then he said but I think he meant or gut, and I think he's somehow because gut is something that you have inside of you, but good, G-U-D, in Old Norse is God. It was pronounced good. Now this also gets back to etymology of goat. But which then goes to Bock, but this is a very kind of entheogenic state of mind if the gut is within you, right? So I have to make sure I heard that right. Otherwise that profound thought is not coherent to the Bock Saga.
It's coming from the root sound good, and good is something what we have inside us.
He either said gut or root, and root would be the Tor, kind of the same thing. And then there's I am Groot. Humaniverse, greetings, Orthling. Orthling, like the planet Earth, or are we talking about Orthling like? Because I'm part Scottish, I might have blood from Orkney. I don't know.
This book become called Ra because she is creating also, like Krishna, this Adam and Eva system, one man and one woman, so the Tur become kicked out. There is no more Tur, there is no more heart friend, so anytime you have problem now, you start to...
Okay, so he was saying Tur, so he wasn't talking about guts. He was talking about the Tor, which is the root, the rot, right? When we say something's rotten, or something is rot, there's rot, like, I think it's spelled W-R-O-U-G-H-T is how you spell the pronunciated word of rot, which has a different meaning than rot, where you don't have that subtlest of W, that subtlest wunyo sound, right? So anyway, he's talking about one of these 13th children of the Ra, and he's getting to the Krishna part that you heard in the eight powers.
Reading that book, because now the book, the Torah, has become our heart friend. Before you went to ask your friends, one girl went to ask her girlfriend, but now we don't have this system anymore in this Adam and Eva system, so every problem you have to solve from the book, where is made whole the story about the Ark of Noah, where we are now presenting 2 species of every animal on this planet in one boat sailing to different parts of this planet in order to survive after this big flood.
So if you heard that, so what was he explaining, right? The Ravis or Rabbis or whatever, which also turns into rabbis, because these are the 12 priest classes that see this is better for the global conspiracy, right? With these guys, right? Which you can't just take it at face value that there wasn't good or evil things going on. They're just explaining, literally, what happened. Don't know exactly why he went on an ego trip, but he went on an ego trip and he changed some shit, right? But they're just explaining these things. At the very least, they'll say there was an ego trip involved, right? Because the idea is that we are telling you is that Ra did not send these guys down to do these particular things. He did let them do other particular things because that was the system and they were supposed to go as 13ths and such. So anyway, let me pull that back a little bit because I kind of interrupted midpoint. But my point that I was making is that they separated us from our Tor friends, and now you need this Torah, right? And so they named this book the Book of Power from the As people. That's what that would imply at that point, the Torah.
In one boat sailing to different parts of this planet in order to survive after this big flood. Now, as you know about what happened, because you come from this Bock family, what has this story where all this domestic animal and domestic plant life has been transferred on boats out from Atlantis to Bockland. Krishna also...
So Noah's Ark is now explaining this much, right? The Ark was built in Atlantis to take the genetically hybridized, domesticated animals out into the world to give us our farming and agriculture system as we know it. Right? The handbags of the gods. I've been saying for forever, everybody's making a big fucking deal about these handbags. I just say it's a bag of fucking seeds. That's what I think it is. And we had such a great symbolic meaning in that conception of the seed. And we were we hadn't been manipulated yet. We had various reasons why we were quarreling, but we hadn't been manipulated yet by our Hyperborean ancestors.
To make one writing system called Sanskrit, sun writing, where he anyway doesn't make a mark for each sound. He is keeping this rune system quite intact. 500 years before Christ, about, again, one of the more than 12 sons of Bock is leaving from Udenma, and he is called Buddha. Now Buddha is coming from Hanudens man, Hanuman, who comes from Asana's boot. Buddha. Asana's boot means messenger. So Buddha means a messenger from As. And this Gautama Buddha,
which when you think about it, if Buddha means messenger in that context, then Buddha's transliterate to angel, right? So the Buddhas that you've heard about are probably angelic archetypes that various monks were embodying.
Buddha. He is coming, and in the story they say that he is from one king family. In this Buddhist scripture, he is blonde he has blonde hair, he has fair hair, he has golden hair in the Buddhist scripture and blue eyes, and he is born in Lumbini. Now, if he is born in Lumbini, there is no way he can have blonde hair. So he is coming from the north, and he is coming as a reformer, because we see that this whole system has gone bankrupt there in South Asia. We get this class system, enormous confusion under these people. So Buddha, he is, according to this story, one of the more than 12 sons of Bock, who is going down there, and he tried to re-establish something related to the natural system, with which he succeeds during a certain period of time. But when his thing become taken over by King Ashok, who is building one enormous Mauryan empire, which is based on this Buddhist philosophy.
And by the way, I just want to draw some context. You'll notice there, without drawing attention to the etymology of the word succeed, he uses the word succeed in a completely different context. You know, imagine if he had to stop, you know, and say, and let me clarify, I didn't mean succeed, right? You know, so, you know, you're trying to tell a very rational story, right? This isn't here to extract the jokes, you know, at every corner. Once or twice, maybe you need a joke because they're talking about something hard. You got to break a little bit of tension, a little bit, or something. I don't know, right? You know, you have to play these things by ear. Long story short is, I just wanted to point out, you know, when you're hearing it like that, how interesting it is to think what's going on theoretically on a subconscious level, especially if you now know about it. Then just hearing it, you know that it's going to activate something in your subconscious. But it's better to know it because it's going to happen in other contexts in life anyway. So we have to stop fearing having the veil removed from our eyes, because, you know, you have no idea how much harm you're doing to yourself if you're not.
But the minute King Ashok died, this empire is falling into pieces. And during this period, these Brahmin priests who have been losing the power they have been receiving on this Krishna story are in one book writing system 200 years before Christ. They start to give out all this kind of war story called Mahabharata, where they are re-establishing the power that they had been losing during the period Buddha has been spreading his philosophy through King Ashok later on, and so on and so on.
So what's very important about that statement is that he is saying this is the reason and the issue that they had to reform the animist pagan traditions of all of the Hindu people, right? You know, like, to go from the Vedas to things like the Mahabharata, right? To write a new scripture, to recontextualize the way they understood the world by taking the words they knew and fixing them to a new manner of thinking about them by having scripture and turning people into people of the book, right? So this is more of how wordcraft was coming into play in the slow institutionalization of the reconnecting of the Hyperborean Empire to the rest of the free world. Right? There is an inherent issue of none of us want to go back to the way it was. We want to do some of the best shit about the way that it was. Right? And there was a very positive trajectory possibility for the human race at these times that they were trying to figure things out before the Hyperborean fucking kings started sending their bitchy billionth born kid down to cause trouble. I'd imagine a few of these generations, it'd be like one guy goes out and the rabbi's got like an army ready for him on the other fucking side, because they're sitting there writing up prophecies, and then, oh, boom, oh, here comes the next kid from the Ra. This makes too much fucking sense. This would be the most like intuitively written film you've ever fucking seen. Like, if somebody fucking was making this up, then they spent, you wasted fucking 8 generations of telling a story orally to fuck it up like this. Like, no you don't. It's ish.
In this way, the Buddhism became more or less eradicated from the South Asian continent and moved northward into Tibet and China and Japan. Again, around the year 0, one of the more than 12 sons of Bock, he is going down to Busan with one woman, and he becomes rådgivare, advisor to the Sultan in Istanbul, in Constantinople, in Byzance. And he gets a very high position over there. They become very close. The Sultan, who is this Rabbi, who has been keeping this line from under this 50 million year period of Ice Age. This man, he has this high position over there, so he becomes sent by the Sultan with his wife to the court of with his woman, to the court of the Pharaoh in Egypt. This man and this woman, they get one son who grows up on the court of the Pharaoh in Egypt, and he is very well known as Jesus. And he is growing up at that court, and he see all this system from one of his relatives who has all this pyramid structure system over there, and on the other side of the water he is looking to this Torah system as it's being played out from this Moses book. And via caravan he gets all kinds of news about Krishna and Buddha in Asia, so he becomes very interested in that, and he splits from Egypt straight to Asia. He never been in Israel before.
Now remember, if you remember from 8 Rings of Power, Jesus is the product of 2 exiles from Hyperborea. They were exiled, right? Because they did a thing, and they were just like, you can't stay here anymore. And so they kind of got kicked out, right? And so he's technically nothing special other than you can't deny the fact that he's born special like that. So he's going off and he's straight up dead ass doing his own thing. But it's going to hit beats that match a certain thing, right? Because it's coming from the mind of one of these guys. Well, it's coming from a mind that was raised by parents who had a mind like that, right? And then he got raised out there in the world as such. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of interesting things to be said. Anyway.
He's going...
and I want to know why I was born in a manger by that merit, right? Was it... Wait, did the story say that he was born in Atlantis, so the 3 of them had to leave, or they left because she was pregnant or something? It's interesting. It's very interesting, but it's crazy because it tells you, like, a way that the Bible stole a story. This is why, this kind of heat is what Bock Saga people will get talking to people of the book. This is the kind of heat that Amon Hillman gets when he talks to people about the book, right? And so he puts on the whole Hail Satan, like, gimmick. I think it's I mean, like, he's real. Like, I ain't saying he ain't real, like, in what he really is. And I think the Hail Satan thing is far more of a super powerful ultra trolling, considering the history of the devil by comparison, and it's just kind of playing off of, well, if the Bible says Jesus is this, then the Bible also says that the devil is this, and I'm just going to emulate what the Greek Bible is saying. And it's just a question of, is he correct that the Greek Bible, as is written, is superior? Because then we have to continue to focus a lot of attention on this one passage that has taken fire across this side of the internet, right? And so, I don't care if you think I suck. I don't care if you think Michele and Jim and Eeyore suck. Transcend that and fucking learn something.
Into Asia, and he is finding out all he can find out there about Krishna and Buddha, and one day he is coming back with this Buddha feeling that he wants to be also some kind of reformer in this whole system of Moses that is doing the same bankruptcy thing around the Mediterranean. They are having much problem with these people, this Rabi and Sienere. The Sienere are leaving from that situation. The Sienere, these deep sea people, they go away. They go back to Wood and Ma. So they take the way north through Europe and go up to Wood and Ma. But these Rabi-related people, they stay in this area of Israel. So, according to this story, the deep sea or the gypsy people and the Jewish people, they are the same people. They are both the children of Narkasur. These people have problem because there is all these kings, these heathen kings around them who are fighting this system from the morning to the evening. There is this one very famous one called Nebuchadnezzar, and when you turn him around you get Rasen Dagubbe, which means one very angry old man, who of course was beating a little bit on that system because he thought it was not right. Now anyway, they extradited themselves from that position and established themselves as it was, and in that situation, as they had been establishing themselves, there arrived one guy called Jesus, or he called himself in the more Arabic languages, Isa ben Hakubu. And when you turn Hakubu around, you find Woedens Bock Saga home. So he probably has something to do with up there.
Okay, so hold on a second, because I missed that. I go back 938. He just told us a name for Jesus that I've never heard before. And the quality, of course, is what it is on this tape. All right.
That situation, as they had been establishing themselves, there arrived one guy called Jesus, or he called himself in the more Arabic languages, Isa ben Hakubu. And when you turn Hakubu around, you find Woedens Bock Saga home. So he probably has something to do with up there.
Okay, that's interesting. I was able to repeat it, then I just lost it because there's so many profundities in what was being said real quick in there about all these things, and then he talked about what happens when you turn that name around. And like I think he said Bock is in that name, etc., etc. And so when you can historically validate that the name that he just said is the full name of Jesus proper as it was used when he was alive and doing his work, whether it be pre-gospel work or whatever, now you've got a linguistic connection that could pull the whole house of cards down, right? So imagine having that lead, right? The Bock Saga, if you're if you don't know enough about history yet, and I knew a decent amount about a lot of esoteric history by the time I was shown Bock Saga, it's leads. It's, you can consider it listening to Wikipedia, right? And I see, like everybody fucking hits Wikipedia, It's it's what you choose to do with your own discernment looking at Wikipedia. Just because you need a quick glance at one thing that looks solid and you know that Wikipedia might be lying to you, which makes it less of an issue. No harm in looking, because sometimes they get one or two things you actually need to know right. Or at least you can find a word that you can search more properly elsewhere. People don't put the time into that unless they really want to know, which tells me a lot about people who don't really want to know things.
And when he is coming there, he called himself Jesus Christus, where he is now doing the same Christ thing as Krishna has been doing in Asia. Now, when Krishna comes there, and all this Rabi and Sienra have to leave because they have no more job in the new Krishna Radha system, and when he is coming there and presenting himself also as one Christ, based again on this Christina story, of course these Rabi people get very angry on him and put him on one shameful. He is trying to bring back the heart. Yeah, he has many sermons about the heart. He wants to bring back the heart under the people. But when he does that on the name Christ and say that he is Son of God, this Rabbi, for these people, that was too much for them. So they put him on one shameful, and there he stands, and I don't know if they was throwing tomato or egg or not, but anyway, after some time, his friends take him off this shameful, and they split to Srinagar in Kashmir, where Jesus died in old age, and he become burned up there, and his ash become thrown in the Ganga at Varanasi. Varanasi, he is coming from Nazareth. When you turn Nazar, you get Ra, son, and Et means this family thing. Nazar.
Oh, for fuck's sake, I muted again. I realized it before you even said it, Vicky. Oh my gosh. The irony that I was talking about evocation because of, okay, all right, here we go. Hysterical. I should be on point. But anyway, Narsaret, not Nazareth. And then I was pondering about how you say that, like, was it also Nazareth, where, he was from, so on and so forth, right? How were those pronunciations? And then I was making the point about it's knowing these primordial translations, pronunciations of these words. They're very evocatively powerful. And so to have this vocabulary under your belt is a powerful level of your oral evocation magic. So raise that vocabulary.
Nasar and Asar, knowledge of Asar, Nasar, et. So they make one whole story about him. About 600, 700 years after Christ, again, one of the more than 12 sons of Bock is leaving, and he is going down to Arabia, and his name is Muam et, the et of Muam, and he again gives a little bit more freedom to this almost established Adam and Eva system, where he gives the right for every man to have 4 women. Not for 4 women to choose whatever man they like, but every man can have 4 women. So in that system they start an enormous production of people who in a couple of 100 years' time take over almost half planet, because they run from Morocco to China, yeah, and they kill everything what comes in between. So they are bringing the new belief system on the planet, which is based also on the Torah book. So now, from this Torah book, after Christ, we are getting, after the year 0, we are getting 3 religions, all based on the same book, the Jewish religion, and the Christian religion, and the Muslim religion. Some 100 years after, when from this Jewish people is coming one offshoot called Christianity. Because all these business people who are established around these ports in the Mediterranean are finding that based on this book system, then they can create a much better business system. So they are creating, with different people coming out from this Christian stream that is developing over there, they get like what we call bishops, who in one conference, 325 after Christ, in the Council of Nicaea, are changing all heathen festival days to be Christian religion holidays, in one book called the New Testament. This is all happening in the time of the Roman Imperium. The Roman Imperium is divided in 2, in one West Roman Imperium and one East Roman Imperium. The West Roman Imperium is based on the Rasul system, which is running out from West Crete, West Creta. Creta is divided in 2. We have East Crete and we have West Crete. And from West Crete is rolling out Rasul system, where from East Crete is rolling out Sultan system. West Crete system is based on Jupiter system, Jupiter fair system, and East Crete is based on Zeus system. So there is 2 of this mythology which is rolling out from the same island. Sultan system, in this happening of business, what now start to occur around the Mediterranean, makes that his center is moving in the 300-400s after Christ to Constantinople. East Roman thing is rolling out from Constantinople. And the West Roman thing is rolling out from Rome. based on the west on this Jupiter.
Oh, I am hysterical. Okay. I am so used to just jumping in and doing my thing. You know? Okay, so I was just making the point about how he's explaining how there's the divide between the East and West. I'm just kind of like repeating what he said and making the point that it was a few things that he was kind of setting this up that I didn't quite catch properly, but I don't want to jump back and forth on you guys.
System, and on the east on this Zeus system. Two systems have been getting influx from new people moving south from this original system in the north, what is based on Gotland or Bockland as it is still called in that time, and this Aser in Woedenmaan are rolling out two systems from this Roos at what is based in this area is going out one group of people called Etruski, who move in this West Roman system, and the Hellenists are moving in this East Roman system, have been moving in this particular system. Now,
so the explanation right there, I know I'm not muted now, is that you've got basically this reintegrating Hyperborean elites that have been trickling into these northern regions, and then the people of the north are coming down, and also various leaderships. I'm assuming that there's probably more than just typical nameable major players, right? It's just like, you got like, Krishna goes, and maybe Krishna had like some dudes that were hanging out with him, and they're named because they're from up top that are with him. They're not like the Arctic, like regular people from the Arctic. They're part of the Hyperborean, right? I'm just using I like using the word Hyperborean. And so they're so this is where you got like all the guys in history that they aren't incredibly special, but they're worth naming in history. And that's probably all of these other like peons from the original bloodline that was able to probably grow a little bit better as conditions were getting better in the Great White North.
Now, this Roman Empire is continuing up to the year 400, where this Roman system has their biggest Rasti, their biggest information center in this place called the Colosseum in Rome, where every year are coming this glad tour. Glad means glad, happy.
Dude, he breaks down what a gladiator is, and I'm just like, it's like, yeah, I'm all about it. Like, pull that back. Okay. Hyperborgi Castle. A borg is a city. A borg it typically means city. But Bori, I see what you're saying, like there's Bur and there's Bori, right? And these are fathers of Odin, right? Father and grandfather of Odin, per se, when as the story tells it. But that makes sense. And the other thing I was also saying is castle. Castle is cast L. Oop, no, not Ek. Cast L. The L cast. And we all know who the L are, right? So it's a dwelling for the L cast. And thus why naturally it would be highly fortified.
Colosseum in Rome, where every year are coming this glad tour. Glad means glad, happy. E means this totem pole, talking pole, thinking pole. A means answer, and tour means this heart friend. So this gladiator is this guy coming in on one carrosserie in the Colosseum, where there is sitting 50,000 women looking to which of this guy I could get as one father to my child.
So you see that the gladiator, that word, like Jim doesn't mention that they're called gladiators when he's talking about the selection process, right? But yeah, so someone who is happy that their E is going to find an as as their tor friend, thus the gladiator, right? So I'm happy that I'm getting laid with a high-class personal friend. That's basically what a gladiator means as a sentence.
One system, what was going on, because we know the Roman Imperium was one heathen imperium. So it was based on one breeding system. The year 400, through this whole new organization of business, what we have been getting in this area, this breeding system is falling in pieces. So exactly the year 400, the Roman Imperium collapses, and now this new established system of book is taking over. We say the Christian religion is taking over, because on all the old rusties, all this old information center, they are building risti-formed churches where one leg is longer. So now people in all this area have to listen what the Pope in Rome is telling black letter on white paper. We don't have any more this information based on one theater in the form of one circus as we have it in the heathen time. The year 400, when the Roman Imperium collapses, also the Danish Viking are taking over Gotland or Bockland, and it becomes called Goatland, on the year 400. Before we had one trade system which was rolling from East Asia, from China, called the Silk Route, and from Southeast Asia all kinds of spices and material was brought up to one area called Vijayanagar or Hampi. And from Vijayanagar all these goods were brought up by elephant to the red forts of Agra, Delhi and Jaipur. And from there by caravan it was transported, all these goods, to the Caspian Sea, from where it went up in Laksurmbotar, which are boats which we can carry over rapids through the river system of Dnieper and Volga in Russia, up to one big lake called Daluga. And from Daluga it's going over Vaneå to Vaanenasvik, the Finnish Gulf, from where it was transported through the archipelago of South Finland, of Uudenmaa, through Gotland, from where all these goods were distributed to all parts of Europe. But when the Danish Viking take over this area in the year 400, they have their business center in one place.
So all this stuff that's coming out, he calls them, he called them goods, which, normally, that's what we call things. Like, I've been working in warehouses, like the stuff in warehouses is called goods, right? But, but goods, but we all know good, God, goat, Bock. So maybe we call them goods because they're all gifts from the goat. They're all gifts from God, thus they are goods, right? Because they all come from Ra. Yeah. See this stuff? See this something? Ain't this effing something?
It's called Hedeby, where they now start to make ready-made article and transfer them the other way down to Busan. So we start this selling system the other way around. We start to have one system where they bring ready-made articles from the north of Europe and sell them or trade them for gold, which become brought up in that way. Now, when the church is taking over, they slowly start to move up north over this borderline, what was one natural border before, this Rhine and Danube river system going all the way to the Black Sea. So when they start to come more north, after a couple of 100 years, the Danish Viking, they get very nervous, because they are afraid that the church will take over their business route. Now, that created that in the year 789, the Vikings are making the first attack on England to scare the shit out of this new system that is coming north. So they go to England and they burn all churches, they destroy everything. They really scare the people not to join into this new system what is rolling up. That is the year 789. And in the year 845 we come to one figure called Ragnar Lodbrok, who is one Swedish Jarl. He is one Swedish Jarl family man. And Ragnar Lodbrok is going down with his ships to Paris. He is sailing down North Sea, coming in France, sailing up the Seine, going to Paris, and he destroys Paris. He ransacks Paris, he burns everything, and he empties all churches and leaves with ransom money of 7,000 pounds of silver back to the north. Now when he arrives in Denmark, this guy, he has so much gold, or so much silver, so much gold and silver, that he becomes straight away king of Denmark. Ragnar Lodbrok, he was married to one of the more than, or not married, he was together with one of the more than 7 daughters of Bock called Asløk, and from her he is getting 4 sons. One is called Björn Jernside, one is called Ivar Hvitserk, one is called Ivar Beenleus, and one is called Sigurd Ormøga. And these 4 sons are playing an important role in this story.
All right, let me pop back real quick because I was on a different thought and I really didn't want to lose this one. So we're going to jump back for a second here to 618. I know it's far, but we're halfway through this.
His ships to Paris. He is sailing down North Sea, coming in France, sailing up the Seine, going to Paris, and he destroys Paris. He ransacks Paris, he burns everything, and he empties all churches and leaves with ransom money of 7,000 pounds of silver back to the north. Now when he arrives in Denmark, this guy, he has so much gold, or so much silver, so much gold and silver, that he becomes straight away king of Denmark. Ragnar Lodbrok, he was married to one of the more than, or not married, he was together with one of the more than 7 daughters of Bock called Asløk, and from her he is getting 4 sons. One is called Björn Jernside, one is called Ivar Hvitserk, one is called Ivar Beenleus, and one...
Okay, these are the children of Ragnar Lothbrok, who married a Bock, is what he's saying. This thing was dropped in 87. Nobody was... Vikings... Like, half the people that are in Vikings were maybe born or whatever at this time, right? Like, he ain't saying this to cash in on Vikings, guys. All right? Nobody gives a shit about Ragnar Lothbrok in 1987. Okay?
One is called Sigurd Ormøga. And these four sons are playing an important role in this story, because she is related to this family, and because he is coming back with this enormous amount of silver, it gives him one reason. It gives one reason to push on the side this established line of Paulet kings. So he became king of Denmark. 10 years later, 855, Björn Jernsider, he is following in the footsteps of his father, and he is going down to Paris, where they have just been rebuilding all churches. So he is emptying them out, and he is not satisfied with that. He has 62 Drakashep, as we call them, dragon boats, and with them he is going south. He is going along the Portuguese coast and the Spanish coast, and he is emptying out all churches. He is sailing up the Guadalquivir river, where he is emptying all churches, and from there he is going through the Strait of Gibraltar to the north coast of Africa, where he collects what they call blue men, probably Tuareg, who he uses as rowers on his boats, going on a further expedition up to the Balear, these islands where today is Mallorca, Ibiza, where he is emptying out all churches. From there he is going over to Barcelona, emptying out all churches, and from there he goes up to France, to one town called Narbonne, where he is emptying out all churches, and from there he is going up the Rhone river, and also over there he is emptying all gold and silver from churches, all this handicraft what is made by people for these churches. And then he gets the idea that he wants to go and visit Rome, so he's going south for Italy, and he is coming to one beautiful marble town called Luna, and when he sees this town he thinks it must be Rome. But when he comes there and finds out it's not there, he gets so angry, so he destroys the whole town. He empties out everything, and now he has so much gold and silver, so he can't move anymore with his 62 ships. And he knows that when he'll go back through the Strait of Gibraltar, there will be this Moor fleet lying and waiting for him to take all this stuff he has been stealing from here and there and everywhere. So he is very clever, this guy. He is sailing over to one place, Alexandria, where he is melting down all these objects. He is melting it down and sends it by Laxurmboter up to the Black Sea, and from there through the river system of Dnieper and Volga and Dwina up to the Finnish Gulf, and from there down to Gotland, and he goes back with empty boats through the Strait of Gibraltar, where indeed this Mooric fleet is waiting for him, and he can do only one thing, and that is make what we call one guard lock. He makes one spare point where he is going with very big speed through this barricade of ships. He succeeds, he comes through with more than half of his 62 ships, and he remains alive himself, and now he is so angry on that he doesn't, he has been losing anyway quite a lot of men and ship and everything. So he sails back to the west coast of the Iberian Peninsula, and he goes to visit the king of Asturia, or the prince of Asturia, who he takes prisoner, and he extracts enormous amount of gold and silver in ransom before he let this king go. Now after that he goes up to Pamplona, where he empties little bits churches out, and after he's quite fed up. He's very tired, because now it's the year 862, 7 years of going around, and he wants to go home. So he's sailing back to Gotland, and when he arrives in Gotland, also his gold and silver has been arriving with his Laxurmboter. So he has so much gold and silver, so he becomes straight away king of Sweden.
By the way, I'm trying to fathom that, and this is historical, right? 7 years before he decides to call it quits. He's just out there for 7 fucking years, raiding and raiding and raiding and making a fucking fortune. That's a whole lot of killing a lot of people. And to do that for 7 fucking years, that's fucking superhuman. That's super fucking human.
In that way, also on this Lingaed people, this king line of Lingaed has no function over there. So, in the same time, because from South Rusland has been this mixture of 50 million year old dark waner with this new white waner who has been eating in the system. Yeah, they have been getting together with the trail and cow woman, so it's eating in the system. This dark, it's slowly coming up, these dark people, through this mixture that we get in the west side between Paulet system and the South European and North African. On the east side it is between the Asian and this east blonde Asian people. Now, in that way, they are getting very big problems in what we call this Garden Empire, Gorda-Rica, Rusland. So they ask for help, and they cannot get this help. They cannot get it from Udenma. This is trying to preserve its own system, and they are not in any war system, because war in the root sound means spring, and in spring you create new life on the planet. Yeah, so war has to do with creating of people, not with killing people, according to the sound. Now,
okay, hold on, I gotta do that again. Because I think I wanted to see exactly what he was saying there, because like I've said before, like the military is kind of like the reverse of what it used to be. I want to see if he actually said a couple of the exact points that I don't remember off the top of my head.
In that way, they are getting very big problems in what we call this Garden Empire, Gorda-Rica, Rusland. So they ask for help, and they cannot get this help. They cannot get it from Udenma. This is trying to preserve its own system, and they are not in any war system, because war in the root sound means spring, and in spring you create new life on the planet. Yeah, so war has to do with creating of people, not with killing people, according to the sound.
Okay, that's what he was saying, right? So to war is to go and create life, right? So, you could almost say that that's war with a U, like a whir, right? And because then that makes sense to me because of uruz, and the sound is the earth spring, which is the uprising, right? This is a very spring oriented energy in that respect, as well as the strength implied in it. But I do know that one of these stories gets into how the military system works, and it's very weird.
Now,
well, Vicky, this isn't even an inversion. This would be a reversion, right? Like, instead of men sticking their spears into women, men are making spears to stick into places of other men that they don't belong, right? Because we're going from giving life to taking life, right? And so we are repurposing our swords and our spears and all of our other implements.
This Rurik, who is this guy, who is this ruler in Unglingeätt in Sweden, he is, because Björn Järnside is becoming the king of Sweden, he removed himself to Gorda-Rica, Rusland, and he starts one line over there, where he gets one son, who becomes Erik Ringsson, and this Erik Ringsson, he become later on educated in Udenma. And from there, after Björn Järnside dies, he will continue, as in one sperm line of Unglingeätt, to continue this king system in Sweden. And the other son is Ivan the First, from where is coming one other line of people, who is mixing with this Sultanätt, which is centered in Constantinople. Now, that brings us to the year 987, where on the east side, in Gorda-Rica, Rusland, Vladimir the ruler of Kiev, who is related to the Sultanate system, he is in that situation that the church is in the process of taking over all this East system. Now the church already been splitting up in two. From Rome and Constantinople we get Roman Catholic and Greek Orthodox church system. So 987, Vladimir, he is marrying the sister to the Emperor of Constantinople, Anna. And when Vladimir marry Anna, in the same time, whole Gordaric Rusland go over to Greek Orthodox Church.
Okay. So, I don't want to have this one go on, like, ad nauseum tonight. This, I think, is an excellent place to pause. I just wanted to do half an hour worth, 2 segments. You can see right here on this channel, there are 8 segments, right? So if I do 2 a night, that'll be 4 different parts, and we'll be able to get through that entire angle of the Bock Saga being told here on, this is the Bock Saga channel. I probably should sub to it right now if I'm going to be doing these things. So there we go. I better hit a like because, how embarrassing is it that I just showed you that I am using this stuff and I'm not even subbed. I didn't even like the video. But anyway. Yeah, hard accent, but you can still get through it. You can still get through it, right? And then after we're done with all this stuff, we will jump back in, and I'll probably want to run a few other things from Jim Chesner's side of it, because he's more or less the on the record authority from Eeyore before he passed, right? With Merle probably being one of the number 2s in that the English speaking world can follow. All right. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. This has been pretty exciting. So you gotta have that bell notification going, because sometimes I'm just effing ready to go, right? Or I'll give myself an hour, giving you an hour, but I'm basically ready to go. So I'm off tomorrow. I might do another one tomorrow. We'll see how I feel. All right? You guys have a kick-ass night.